Hello everyone, welcome back to the Metal Mill 52 workshop. My name is Bill and I'm trying to build a Quorn Tool and Cutter Grinder. As you can see, it's in pieces here as I'm getting ready for the final assembly, the paint and body work, and I'm going through bit by bit and identifying things that I needed to finish up from before, and as I've gone along I've found some errors that I needed to fix as well. So the part I'm holding in my hand right now, this is the tilting bracket that I'm tapping my thumb with, and this is the rotating base here. The rotating base was basically fine. The only thing I needed to do was to put the degree marks in it and to stamp the numbers in. So I'll cover that in this video. Pretty neat setup in the mill for scribing the degree marks. I'm very pleased with how that came out. And the numbers came out good too. These are 1/16 inch numbers that I used my number stamps from Grizzly, and they came out pretty good. Also, in this process, I realized a mistake I had made with the tilting bracket, and as you can see, maybe you can't tell, but I've soldered a new piece of brass into the center of what used to be the slot here, and I remachined that and fixed it, put a new bevel in it so that it will be perfectly alignable when we get ready to do the final alignment things. So there we have the intro basically. Please welcome again to the new subscribers. I always like to say that, and please let me know your thoughts. I try to respond to the comments and questions as best I can if there's something I haven't covered in the video. There are some really cool Quorn builds that are going on now, and I've noticed on Instagram there's a guy named Bob Shed, then he's building one, and of course my go-to resource on YouTube is Maddie's workshop. Maddie did a fantastic job documenting his build of a Quorn. So I'm just trying to add to the body of knowledge and be helpful for fellow craftspeople. So hope you enjoy it. Give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe. Please pass the word. I'm trying to grow the channel. Thank you again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this video. Well, very similar to the setup that we used when we did the vertical column on the manual numerical control method. I've got the Spindex mounted to the mill. I moved the vise out of the way, it's over there, and I've just clamped it to the table and lined it up. It's just the simpler thing to do with my Spindex because the sides of the base are not milled parallel to the axis, so it's just easier to bolt it in place and then do the alignment thing. So that's what I've been doing here. I got it nice and aligned. My plan is to put the rotating base in a 1/2 inch 5C collet and mark it using the mill. And because we'll be using an engraving tool in the rotating base, I've also used my little interrapid tenths indicator to make sure that the bar is horizontal, and it is. The travel is only going to be this much, so it's moving like maybe a 1/2 thou, not even that much. So looking good there. I think we'll get ready to index the bar. I still need to mark the bar center line of the Spindex, so I'm going to get that done tonight, and maybe I can get test some degree markers tomorrow. Alright, I experimented around with a couple of different cutting tools to try to come up with the perfect thing to scribe the lines, but what I think I'm going to use, I took the scriber point, carbide scriber point, out of one of my scribers that I use, and I think I'm going to use this. So we'll try that and see how it goes. Right now I've got the thing lined up. I used a 5/8 inch drill to line up in the 5/8 inch hole there for the tool holder rod. So I've got that indexed. I also got my index point on 0 and my vernier scale in the 0. So I'm ready to go to start scribing lines, and as I said, I'm going to do them on the top half here. So I'll get on that and bring it back when I make that happen. Okay folks, in the last segment it kind of cut off where I was talking about how I do the individual marks. So I thought I'd show up, I'd set the camera up on the little stand over there, and hopefully you can see this all right. I'll take you through at least making a few marks, maybe 10. I got 90 done last night, and they're coming out pretty good. And so I just wanted to show this technique. What I'm using is a point, like a carbide tip from one of these conventional scribers. I just took it out. I tried a few different things, but that's giving me the best results so far. So I'm going to unlock it, raise it up, and now where I left it last night, was a 0 mark, which is for the tens place. And the Spindexes have a vernier scale on here, so you can pull the pin out. I'm moving it to the 1 place, and I just rotate it just a tiny bit. You can hear it click into the 1. So this is going to be a 1 mark, or a 1 degree rather. So I move this all the way back to the edge. A little further. Okay. That's a couple thou from the edge. And all I'm doing is pressing just lightly, light pressure on there just to kind of drag the scriber, and you can see it kind of digs in, so I'm not pressing at all really. And I'll go up to 1/8 of an inch on the x-axis here, 0.125. Okay, there we have it. There we go. So I raise up the scriber and move the table back, move this over to the 2. I don't know if I showed this last night or before or not, but if it gets stuck, rather than wrestling with the pin, I just pull it out with a pair of needle nose. So put it to the 2, click it over, move it to 0, light drag, and another. Whoa, that's even too much pressure right there. I'll come back. The nice thing about doing it this way is if it's too much pressure and the point gets caught like that just happened, you can just raise it up and start over again. Because all you're trying to do is make a nice groove, a little scratch mark basically. And these will be plenty sufficient. I tried, the first couple of tests I made, I tried setting the depth on my quill DRO, setting it down. Move it back, pull this out. Tried setting it to a couple thou, locking it in, but the scriber tool just digs in, and that's not good. So you just want to make a nice scratch mark, just like you were scribing it with your hand. So this is that's the same idea as I'm doing here. All right, 125. There we go. Raise it up, bring it back. And what I've done, I put a blue dot next to the 5s and the 0 for the 10 mark to remind myself that I need to go farther. Alright, excuse me. Go up to 125, raise it up, looks good, bring it back. Move this over. Alright, now this is going to be a 5 degree mark, so click it over, bring this to 0, and now I'm going to just press it down lightly, and I go to 3/16 of an inch, 0.188. That's perfect. Raise it up, bring it back, pull that out. Go to the 6 degree mark, coming back. Alright, how much time have I? Oh, 4 minutes, okay. So you definitely get the idea. So it takes about 4 minutes just to do 5. Of course, if you're explaining it. If you're not explaining it, it goes faster. But hopefully that's helpful. I dig the Spindex. It's been really handy for a lot of different things, and it certainly has helped with building the Quorn. So hope that helps. Alright, I just finished up making the final degree marks, so I got 360 degrees around, so I'm pretty happy with that, how that came out. I need to clean it up a bunch. It's Friday night, it's dark and hard to see in the shop, even though I've got a lot of lights out here, but pretty happy with it overall. Let me bring this around, I'll show one thing. Months ago, after I cut the slot for the V dovetails, I was trying to relieve the area there with a Dremel handheld grinder bit, and I goofed up the edge a little bit, and I really regret that, because otherwise the whole thing had been so perfect. It doesn't really affect the operation, but it looks like crap. So don't get your don't get impatient with your Dremel grinding thing. Anyway, so the degrees are done. I went ahead and did 360 degrees all around, and I'll clean this up a little bit with some Scotch-Brite or a file and see how it looks. If I need to, I can, since the nice thing is since it's held in a 5C collet, I can put it in the lathe and run it, file it off real quick. So the next thing that needs to happen after this will be stamping, and I can leave it in here. I can put the pillar tool on the mill table, and this would be a good support for stamping the numbers in there. So right now I'm just going to leave it as is and take a look at it in the daylight and clean it up, and I will keep you posted. Thanks. Okay, it's just a couple minutes after the last segment that I shot. I decided not to wait for daylight, but I had this piece of fine Scotch-Brite laying around and some WD-40. As you can see, I sprayed it on and used the Scotch-Brite to clean it up a bit, and I just used an ordinary rag to wipe off the residue, and it really came out good. It's nice. I think I knocked off most of the significant swarf. It'll need to be polished up a little bit. Let me see if I can get the focus right. But that'll certainly be serviceable. With grinding stone or grinding different cutters, the main thing is having a reliable degree setup and then being able to repeat your setups and alternate them from side to side. So really pleased how that came out. I mean, it's very even. The marks aren't perfect, but they're definitely readable, and it'll definitely be useful. So I look a lot better in the daylight, but you can get an idea for how it looks. So I think I'll be ready to set up and stamp numbers. Like I said, it's late tonight, so I'm not going to do that. But the theory is to go, 0, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 40, 30, etc., around each quadrant. So I'll follow that method in the book that they call for in the book. Hey folks, I'm in the middle of stamping the numbers on the rotating base, and I'm using the method, the 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 40, 30, 20, 10. I just got the first 90 done, so I did the 0. So I'm about to stamp the 0 and the 1 for the first 10, if you will. And I thought I'd take a picture of this. I don't know if you can see. I'll do a setup shot in a little while too, but I've got the Spindex in the big Kurt vise, and I've got it aligned with my pillar tools to hold the stamp, and then I've got a set of blocks and stuff underneath here. You probably can't see that. Let me twist this down. Like 1, 2, 3 blocks and so forth, supporting that, kind of take the impact of the hit. I've also got the vise somewhat clamped down. The part I wanted to show this, because it is a little bouncy jouncy, if you will, when I strike the number in there. Let me go ahead and get it lined up. I'll put the 0 in here. But the setup is pretty good overall. There we go, right there. And I'm splitting the line, of course, because I've got to stamp the 2 digits. You can see it move just a wee bit, but that's the 0 for the 10. It looks pretty good. I'm taking my time with this process. I'll put the 1 in. And these are 1/16 inch stamps that I got. I think I got these from Grizzly, as a matter of fact. I'll check the box in a minute. And so then I rotate it over very carefully to where the 1 needs to be. Just trying to keep these as close as possible. The alignment in this direction is pretty well taken care of because of the way the vise is clamped down and where the pillar tool is. But like I said, it does jounce around a little bit, so you do have to be careful, and it's not automatic by any stretch of the imagination. Here's the box that these has my arm in the way. This 1/16 inch stamping, yeah, these are from Grizzly. They come in this tiny little box, and this is just the number set. So line it up. The pillar tool is handy, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm taking my time with this whole thing. It goes a little faster when you're not narrating. But there's the 10. Now, what I do is have developed a habit of put the 0 in next, and I'll rotate this over to where the 20 needs to be. And I'm glad I have the 1/16 inch. So there you can see the 10, the 0, and the 10. Hopefully that's coming in focus for you pretty well. But you really wouldn't want to use a bigger stamp because there's not that much real estate there. So here we go. Do the 0 and the 2 for the 20, and then I'll cut this off. 0, pull that out, and the 2. Rotate this just a teensy bit. Okay. Strike it. Nice firm tap. So I don't know if you can see this, but well, I've got the 1, 2, 3, and 4 lined up over here, and then the 0 I've got that separate, so it makes it easy. Let me twist this over, and you can see the 20 that I just made right there. So it's coming out good. I'll just keep methodically working through this and look forward to wrapping it up and getting on kind of fine-tuning the rest. There's another thing I need to do with the tilt bracket so that the indicator mark will go. So I'll probably come back and show you that piece, and then we can wrap up this one. This is probably probably take me 2 weeks to publish this just because I've been very busy, hadn't had that much shop time. But thanks everybody, I'll bring you back next time. And for what it's worth, this is the overall setup where I've got the Spindex and the Kurt Vise, and I've got a couple of spacers on the side of it to help adjust for the irregularity of it, and I've got it just in the right spot for my lower arm of my pillar tool, which is, this thing is handy. I've used this more than anything else, the pillar tool holding the stamps, and it's nice because you can readjust, reposition. These are the 1/16 inch stamps that I got from Grizzly, and they did a fine job. I did have to smooth up the outsides of them a little bit so that they fit smoothly in there. But here's the rest of the setup. You can see the, well, that bright light is coming from the, block that out, little stand thing that I got at Walmart a few months ago. And here's the finished product on the number stamps. Not completely perfect, but not bad either. I'll certainly take that and move along with the project. Okay, I wanted to show this real quick. Cleaning up the area where the number stamps. Got a fine, kind of a worn out fine file that I cleaned with my file card, and all I'm doing is just touching the file to the area where the numbers are, just to knock off the little high spots. They're lathes at about 220 RPM, so let me show you how this works. You can see this is the safe way to put a file to a lathe, and good way to control it. I'm just touching it where the numbers are, no pressure whatsoever. And let's see how they look. Here we go. It's looking good. Alright, that's a wrap on this part now. Now that I've got the numbering on the rotating base, the next thing I needed to do was to arrange for a place to mark an index mark against these individual degree marks. And as you can see, one of the errors I made when I originally milled this tilting bracket is that I went too far with this cut. I think I made this according to the book, but I hadn't really envisioned it thoroughly, which that's, you know, my fault. I should have really thought more about how this was all going to come together. So the other thing I did, it's kind of hard to see in this description, this view, but when I milled this slot, I actually milled it offset erroneously, and I had to go back and looked at the video of when I made this to try to figure out where I went wrong. And it's pretty simple when now that in hindsight I can look at it. But I had this clamped in the mill vise, and I milled the slot right in the center of the part that's clamped. But as you can see, that's not the same center as the center of rotation, which the rotating base rotates about, and where the actual center needs to be for marking the index marks. Hope that makes sense. But long story short, the slot is basically offset to the left about 1/4 of an inch, which is the thickness of this piece. So the fix, happily, I think is pretty simple. And what I'm about to do, I'm kind of going into this to hopefully help the next person that builds one. If you follow my videos, you won't make the same mistake. But I have lots of scrap pieces that I save, and this is a piece of scrap brass that I saved. And last night I filed it down so it'll fit in the slot here. So I'm going to cut it off. I'll file it a little bit more so it's a good fit and leaves a little bit of room for solder. And my idea is to probably just go ahead and soft solder this in place, and then I can put it in the lathe and clean up the joint, and then put it in the mill and remill the slot so that it's more, so that at least the center area is, the slot is on center with the center line of rotation, center line of the axis of rotation, if that makes sense. So simply put, fitting this filler piece in, and it'll be up high enough so that when I mill it, I can mill it to match exactly the bottom of the rotating base, so I can put my index mark in there. So that'll be the next segment of this fixing of the little tilting bracket. Here's the tilting bracket with the little brass piece soldered in place, and I've filed out some of the high spots. Let me take this out if I can show you. It's not the most beautiful soldering job, but I wanted to put it in there, use some wires to hold it in place. Get this out, come on. There we go. Just use soft solder inside there. It's pretty ugly, but it'll clean up nice in the lathe and the mill. I'll clamp this on a piece of 1/2 inch rod. Here's, you can get a pretty good idea of the off-center of the original slot. That's kind of funny. But step one for the fix. And here I've got the tilting bracket with the filler that's soldered in and filed down a little bit. I've got it on a 1/2 inch rod in the lathe, and I've clamped it down so it's nice and tight. And I'll be able to, as you can see, I'll be able to turn the outside to get it smooth and uniform where the lump was. And then also, let's see if I can bring this around, here we go. I can clean up the top part there. And then it's already hollow in the back, so I don't really need to turn anything back there. I'll just be able to mill the new angle slot on center over. Should be the final pass just to clean up. I only took like 10th thou at a time off. It was about a 40 thousandths total bump that was left from filing. So let's stop the lathe and take a look and see how we did here. Oh yeah, looking good. Let's see. Check this up a little bit. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and take a couple thou more. It's nice and smooth all the way across except for down here. And this part was already going to be indented because I got to mill that out anyway. So looking good. I'll just take a couple thou more and we'll be good to go. Just to clean that up, then we can take it over to the mill. Okay, I took 5 thou more off and it came out really, really super clean and pretty. I forgot to mention, but I'm also going to machine, just turn the top part flat here before we take it to the mill, so I'll do that next. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Cleaned up really nice, and then the center part will clean up better after I mill it out, of course. So let's rotate it around. I don't think I need to put a cutter in like a boring bar type thing to clean up the inside, but let's take a look just to double check. Yeah, no, nothing sticks out further than it did before. So I think we're in good shape there. Let me rotate that around. We can get a good look at it. Just a little burr from where I'm turned off the top edge, but excuse me. We'll file that down and looking good. Okay, I lied. I decided there was a little blob of solder on the inside there, so I decided to clean it up and with the boring bar. Kind of gave myself the idea, I guess, as I was talking about not doing it. So let me flip that around and let you take a look at the inside. Let's see. So it's all neat and shiny and clean now. So we're all good to go. Take it over to the mill. Okay, now I have the tilting bracket over in the mill. Got it blocked up with a couple 1, 2, 3 blocks. And I simply centered it using a 1/2-inch rod and a drill. That will give me, put the center of the mill, the DRO. I've centered that using this locating method. So that's good enough. Now I just got to take this out, put the 3/8 inch end mill in, and mill down 80 thousandths of an inch. Should give me a level spot right with the bottom of the degree marks, and then we can tilt the thing and mill it, put a little angle in there, a little bevel. Alright, I've got it in the mill. I milled down 80 thou from the top, and it looks like it's giving me exactly the right clearance there. So you can see just above the new part that's been soldered in there, you can see the degree marks just above there. So now we can mill a little angle, a little bevel, and we should be in good shape. Let me pull this out and you can see the off-center aspect, hopefully. Crank the mill back over this way. The cutter is still aligned with the center right now. I haven't moved that. I just moved the x-axis travel. So you can see this is going to be, line it all up here, be in good shape as far as, get that out of the way. As far as our alignment notch being aligned with the actual center of the hole. Crank this out. What I wanted to show is it was pretty obvious to see, because when I first started milling down, I could see some little solder here on this side. It's kind of hard to see there exactly, but well, you can see it solder. It's almost like fill over here on the left. So it just may not have been a 1/4 inch off, but it was certainly noticeable off center. So I'm glad it's set up like it is now. Really pleased about that. And here's maybe a better view of the height being not below the degree marks. There's actually a little cushion, maybe 20 thou or so cushion above the bottom edge there. If that makes sense. Let me try to raise this up. I'll show you what I mean. All of this is very much in the realm of fine-tuning things. So if I raise it up just a wee bit, you can see that gap. So we're just slightly, the bevel is sticking up just slightly above the top of the beveled space. Got a selection of angle plates that I like to use for setting up angles like this in the mill, bevel angles. So here's the 30, 60, 90 triangle, and as you can see, it's lined up good for giving a 30-degree bevel there. So we'll go ahead and mill that in just a minute here. I've mentioned this before. If you get a chance to buy a retiring machinist's set of tools, that's where these bevel plates came from, and so many more things that I have. I'll tell a little quick story. I met a gentleman. He was a professional machinist at an aerospace company, and he was retiring and moving to somewhere in the islands, not the Caribbean islands, but out in the Western Pacific somewhere. And he literally told me, he said, "I'm not taking anything with me I can't fit in a duffel bag." So I was able to buy, I gave him a fair price for it, exactly what he was asking, but I got a ton of stuff in this this Kennedy box here. It's just full of great stuff. So if you get a chance to do that, I would highly encourage you. This is just so cool. It's like a little metamorphosis as the angle comes back in. I just took off 10 thou. Let me go ahead and take off another 10 thou or so. Lock it in. Just fitting it really easy. You can see it's cutting through the solder basically at first, and then it's the brass. It's taking really light cuts with really light feed because the part is delicate and it's, not all clamped down real strong. But pretty confident that it'll work out good. Good. Let's see how we're looking from this side. Take the middle off. Nice. It's going to be very satisfactory. I'm just going to take off just a wee bit more just to clean this thing up. And I want to leave plenty of material back here on the back edge. As you can see, I've got probably 3/32 of an inch right there as a ledge. So we're not going to go all the way down to the knife edge. Just take just enough to clean that up. I'll bring you back when we're done. Okay, there's the last cut. I want a total of 60 thousandths depth. I'm going to blend this part out with the file. I'm going to leave it clamped up. I'll deburr and blend that little bit with the file. This part I'm just going to probably leave as is, and not at all displeased with it. And if you can see the little edge here, this is what I was talking about. I still got a good 1/16 of an inch of thickness of material here, so this is not going to get misshapen or deformed from use, and it'll be the perfect surface. We know that that slot is lined up with the center hole here, so when we do the final assembly and we get ready to mark the index mark on here, when everything's perfectly aligned, we'll be in very good shape. So hopefully that is helpful to you. I think what I'm going to do is publish this video, so this will probably be the last segment of this video. It's probably long enough. I'll do an intro segment and publish it soon. So thanks again, everybody. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it.